Are you learning about CSS Basics for Beginners and want to know how to use CSS margins and padding in a real-world web development project? If so, you're in the right place. Hi, Martin here from MDP Web Development. Today we'll be working on a project that we'll use as a reference project throughout the Web Development for Beginners playlist. Don't forget to check out the playlist from the start to get a better understanding of HTML and our reference project. It's updated each week with new videos. Be sure to stick around to the end to see how to get the project files on GitHub to use throughout this playlist. I'll link to important videos there also. There's a link in the description down below to the GitHub repository where all the source code is. Let's get started.
Before we go on, be sure to watch the Visual Studio Code Editor video. It explains how to get and set up VS Code for use in the Web Development for Beginners playlist. And also watch the video on creating your first web page. I'll link to them in the description below. Here's a summary to get you started. First, create a folder on your desktop and call it Reference Project. Next, download and install Visual Studio Code Editor for your operating system from the link in the description. Open VS Code, then open this folder and create a new file called index.html. In the file content, type an exclamation mark and hit enter. This should create a new standard document for you. Open the file from the desktop folder and it should be a blank page as we have not put any content in it yet. If you get stuck, just watch these videos first.
CSS margins and padding. Margins create space outside an element and its borders. Margins can be put on the top, right, bottom, or the left. And there's also a shorthand way to make this easy by just specifying top, right, bottom, left. Padding. Padding creates space inside an element and its borders. Top, right, bottom, and left, and also the shorthand can be seen. We can see here we have content on the page in the middle. Here's the content. Here's its padding. It's right outside it, before any borders. Here's a border if you choose to put one around the content. And then outside the border would be the margin out to the rest of the page. Here we can see a red square and we have margin set to 1 EM. 1 EM is a default pixel size for text. We can see here top, right, bottom, left. We just write margin 1 EM and all top, right, bottom, left, all sides are covered. If we just wanted one on the top, we write margin top 1 EM. If we just wanted a bottom margin, we'd write margin bottom 1 EM. And if we just wanted a left one, we'd write margin left 1 EM. And obviously with a right one, we just write margin right 1 EM. And here we can see the shorthand way to write it is margin 1 EM, 2 EM, 1 EM, 2 EM. So from the top, you just go around clockwise. That means top, right, bottom, left. So top gets 1 EM. Right gets 2 EMs. Bottom gets 1 EM to match the top. And left gets 2 EM to match the right. And we can see here padding can be specified in exactly the same way. Padding 1 EM does the entire thing. Then top, bottom, left, right, and a shorthand at the bottom. Hi, before we move on, please don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. Thank you.
So now we're going to open Visual Studio Code and our project and a browser window on the right to preview our project. It's going to go to our desktop and double click on Visual Studio Code. Then we're going to go to the Explorer view and open folder. And mine is on the desktop, so I'm going to go Desktop, Reference Project, select Folder. And here we can see we have our HTML file. If we open the browser view, we can see the reference project folder and the index.html file we created. Now, to see the browser window on the right, if you have the live server extension installed, you'll see Go Live button down here on the bottom. And if you haven't, you just have to go out to your desktop, open the folder, and click on the index.html file. So once you've clicked on that file, we're just going to click this Go Live button here. And that'll start up a new browser server window for us. So a handy shortcut for Windows to put something on the left and right is to press the Windows key and then right or left arrow and release the Windows key. Then select the one you want on the left or right. So I'll close this panel. So another handy shortcut for Windows is the zoom key. If you press CTRL, then the plus to zoom in and negative to zoom out. So we can see here we have our Windows browser on the right. So the only difference if we had to open this manually on the desktop and click on the file is if we make changes on the left in our code editor, you would have to click refresh on the right to see it.
So let's go ahead and put some margins and padding into our CSS for our HTML Beginners project. We can see here as we scroll down, text is up against the edges here and very close to the links. And it looks really compact and close together. That's because we haven't actually set any of our own margins and padding. So let's go into our project here on the left. We're going to again open up our index file and also our MyStyleCSS file. And we can see here we have our index file. So let's start by using padding. We can see here in the HTML reference section that everything is very close to the left and squashed together. And on the bottom there's no space here between the links and the bottom. When we insert padding, the point will move everything from the outside to the inside with padding around it. It'll look much better. So let's go ahead and insert some padding. So we can see here in our CSS file what we've done in the previous videos. Body, H2, paragraph, and HTML colors. Let's go down to the bottom here. And I want this padding to be fairly large, so we're going to call the class padding large. And I want the padding on left, right, bottom, and top. So padding all over. So we're going to go dot for class. We're going to call it padding hyphen large. Open and close curly brackets. Now remember, we set the text size up here, the default font size to 16 pixels. So I think I'll try with maybe 3 times the default font size and see how that looks. So to put padding on top, right, bottom, and left, we just use padding because all the values are the same. If the values were different on top, right, bottom, or left, we'd have to use the other shorthand we discussed. So we go padding 3em. Now we have our class created. So this will put 3em, 3 times the default text size of padding into whatever element we attach this class onto. So let's go back now into our HTML and attach that class onto our HTML section. If we scroll down here, we can see our HTML section. Section class equals HTML colors. Here's our HTML section. Another handy tip in VS Code is if you hover on the left, you can collapse the entire section. There we go. So now we're in the section tag for the HTML section. We're going to put our class here. So we can see section class equals HTML colors to set the colors. And now we'll make it use our padding large. Padding hyphen large. And we can see once we save our project and refresh our browser, there's now padding inside this HTML element. I'll just zoom out slightly. And we can see everything looks much better. It's not squashed up against the outside of the element. So let's go ahead and attach this class now to our CSS reference section. So we can scroll down, and here we can see class CSS colors. Here's our CSS section. So let's put the class name in here also. This way we can use the one class name in many places to perform our padding. Padding -large. And we save and refresh our browser. We can see now we also have padding in our CSS reference section. Let's go down to our JavaScript reference section finally. Here we are. And we'll also put the class name here, padding -large. And once you save on your project or refresh on your browser, we can see now our JavaScript section has padding. Now let's just apply some padding to the footer also. We can see the footer on the bottom here. Now, we don't have anything here to signify class, so let's go class equals, and now we'll put in our padding large class. And we can see now our footer has padding also. Now again, save your project and refresh your browser window if you don't see any changes. So we can see here now that our HTML section is squashed right up against our CSS reference section and our JavaScript sections. In other words, there's no margins around them. Margins are space on the outside. We have space on the inside now, which is what we wanted. So let's go ahead and put some space between these. To do this, we'll use margins. So what I'd like is to have a margin on the top to keep it away from this link, and also a margin on the bottom to keep it away from the next section. But I don't really want this section or the other ones to come in from the left. If I put margin left or margin all around, this entire section will move in from the left onto the page. I don't really want that, so I'm going to go margin top and margin bottom. And I want this margin to be fairly large, and I can use a margin large class in different places. So let's go here to where we were. We have padding large. Now let's create a margin large just for the top and the bottom, because I don't want it on left and right. So again, for class, we go dot, and we call this margin -large top bottom. And instead of writing top and bottom, I'm just going to go T-B, top and bottom, margin large top bottom. Now let's put in the margin for the top, margin -top. And we'll do the same, maybe 3 EM. This is 3 times the default pixel size for the font. And now let's put margin bottom also to 3 EM. This is now a class that margin on the top is 3 EM and margin on the bottom is 3 EM, but I don't want margins on left and right, so I left them out. So let's go ahead now and attach this margin class into wherever we want to put it in these sections to give them a margin, top and bottom, to keep them away from each other, to make it more visually appealing. So we go back into our HTML. We can see here we have our HTML section. HTML colors, looks nice, padding large inside to keep stuff away. Now let's put our margin large TB, top bottom, class into it. And we can see there now that our HTML reference section has actually got a margin top and bottom, and it's not squashed up against our link on the top and our other reference section on the bottom. Again, you might need to click File, Save on your project and refresh in your browser. So that's what I wanted. And now we'll also apply the class to the CSS reference. We can see here the margin from the HTML section is on the bottom, keeps it away here. But we can see our CSS reference is squashed up against our JavaScript reference. So let's go ahead and put our margin large top bottom on the CSS and JavaScript sections also. So we're going to scroll down to the CSS section. And we're going to put margin large top bottom. And we can see here vscode recognizes if we hit enter. Again, save on your project and refresh in your browser, and you can see now that there is a margin between them. So now let's go ahead and also put that margin on the JavaScript section by inserting the class name. And we can see our footer has just moved down. Now we'll just zoom out now on our project to have a look, see how it looks. We can see now the space around the text and the margins keeps elements away from each other. Lovely.
So to get the files used in this example, the HTML reference project, just go to the GitHub link that's down in the description of this video. You can have a look at it here. So a GitHub repository is just a location on the internet hosted by a company called Git that most developers like to share or store their code in, either for their own use or to share with other developers. The repository on GitHub is just a folder used to store code or files, etc. Let's have a look at each folder. So when we're in the repository here, you can see the name of the repository there, actions along the top. You can see the main folder here, and there's a README file too. So if you want, you can just click onto the folders and see what's inside them and download the code from there. But to get all the code, you're going to go over here to the code button. We're going to click and download zip file. Once that's downloaded, go into your downloads folder. Then we need to extract it. So we're going to Windows, you're going to right click and extract all. Now let's just have a look at these files in VS Code. So we're going to go to our desktop. We're going to open up Visual Studio Code. And now we're going to open the folder that we just extracted. Open folder on the left. And we're going to go to Downloads. And here we are. And you can see here on the Explorer view on the left, there's the folder we can click to expand. And here's the reference project folder. And here's the HTML file, so we'll click on that, and there's the code. You can use this for reference or to rebuild your project if something goes wrong.
Hi, I hope you found this video helpful. If so, please like, share, comment and subscribe so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos in the Web Development for Beginners playlist. See you next time.